Yeah, I don't got an idea for this one. Uh, I do have a dictionary here, so I guess I could flip to a random word in the dictionary, and we could see if I can build a cohesive video off of that. Let's give it a shot. No, I don't want to do it. Wait. Okay, I got it. I got this one. Okay, I got this. Discrete. Okay, discrete. I gotta build off of the word discrete. Okay, I got a good discrete story. Okay, so when I was very tiny, when I was like 5 or maybe 6, uh, this was before 2002, because that's when I started playing Yu-Gi-Oh. And the reason that this is pertinent is this is a story about the Pokemon trading card game. Anyone ever play that? I never did, but I collected the cards all the time. Not really collect, I made my parents buy me them. I didn't know how to play the game at all. To this day, still do not know how to play the Pokemon trading card game. Whatever. I know it's still very popular. I know people still play it. I just never learned how to do it. And my friends never really did either. It was all about collecting the cards. And I know, and as soon as Yu-Gi-Oh came out, that's what I really got into. I was always a Yu-Gi-Oh kid growing up. I was never a Pokemon kid. So when Yu-Gi-Oh came out, I was really into that, and I learned how to play that game quicker. And I started playing that in 2002, and I kind of stopped collecting Pokemon cards after that. Because I had to prioritize. When I went to the store with my parents, they'd be like, okay, we'll buy you a pack of Yu-Gi-Oh cards or a pack of Pokemon cards. I'm like, well, I actually know how to play Yu-Gi-Oh, so buy me a pack of those. So I want to say I was maybe like anywhere from the ages of like 5 to maybe 8, somewhere around that range. Every year in my town, there's a thing called the community yard sale, where like a bunch of people in town all have a yard sale the same day, and it's like sort of like a quasi festival, because everybody's walking around town, everyone's buying stuff, everyone's like, oh, you should head over to 6th Street because they're selling these, or you should go over to 1st Street because they have a good deal on those, that kind of shit. So I'm walking around with my friends, and I remember my parents gave me like $5 to go around and buy stuff with my friends, and I can't remember what I bought, but I bought something. I didn't have any money left by the time that we got to this one house, and I'm with my friend Ian and my friend Phil. My friend Ian is a 911 dispatcher now. I just ran into him like a few months ago. Really big, he's built, like really big built dude, but he was still cool. Phil was kind of like the friend that you have that's also your bully. He would pick on me constantly, ripped up my shit. Like, I remember I had like a poster on the bus one day, and he ripped that up, so he was kind of a dick. I punched him in the stomach once. That was kind of nice. But yeah, I didn't really get along too well with him, but we hung out with him because he was rich. His family was rich anyway, so he had like all the stuff. He had all the coolest games. Like, he had Doom on PC. That was a big thing back in the day. And he had a whole binder filled with really rare Pokemon cards, so that's why we basically hung out with him. Anyway, we get to this one house, and I don't know why, but this one house, they're selling Pokemon cards, and they're not like really shitty Pokemon cards, like really common ones. They're like rare Pokemon cards they are selling, like really rare ones. Like, I remember the one I remember the most, and the one that this story is mostly about. It was a Blastoise. It was like a glittery. I can't remember the rarity values of Pokemon cards, but it was a holographic Blastoise card, and I remember seeing that, and it was $10, I think. And they had a bunch of other rare ones too. They had a Chansey, they had a Poliwrath. I'm pretty sure they had an Alakazam. They had an Alakazam. I don't know, like, what the context was. Why? And they were like, they were like not an old couple, but they were like in their 40s. So the best way I can imagine this is like they had a kid that like went to summer camp, and they decided to sell all his cards over summer, or like the kid did something to piss him off and they're selling it, or they needed extra money. I don't know the context here, because I am like a little kid like, let's just say 7 years old, and I'm in a fucking candy store. It's like a fucking miracle. It's like there's all these Pokemon cards they're so shiny, and I'm like, I would never get a chance to get these ever, and they're being sold here for like, now, keep in mind, $10 to an adult is nothing. I would have cleaned this place out if I was there now. I would walk in and I'd be like, oh, look at all these rare Pokemon cards. Yes, well, let me write you a check. You know, I would pull a Seto Kaiba. I would just write you a check for like $200 and like, just here you go. Thank you very much. Yes. But I couldn't do that when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I didn't have any fucking money. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm looking around at the cards, and my friend Ian and my friend Phil are looking around at these cards, and I'm like, I really want to buy that Blastoise. I had my eyes on that Blastoise card. I wanted to buy a Blastoise. So I'm telling them, my friends Ian and Phil, and my friend Phil is like, well, you don't have any money left, do you? And I'm like, shit, I don't. But I remember my dad gave me $10 for my birthday, and it's back at my house. And Phil was such a dick. Phil was like, well, you better hurry up and get back to your house, because I'm going to go to my house to get my money, and, I'm going to buy that card first. And I'm like, ooh, fuck you. No, so we're on the end of 9th Street, and my house was on 8th Street, and Phil's house was on the top of 9th Street. So it was like this fucking race. I had to hurry up, and both houses were sort of the same distance. His was a little bit closer, but my house was not that far from his. He's moved out, but his house is like right there, like right over there across the street. I have to go across the yard, across the street. So I ran home as fast as I could. Now, as I was running home, though, I remembered my dad was home. He was sitting, he was in the living room watching baseball or whatever. And I'm running home, and I remembered, oh shit, my dad is not going to let me spend my entire birthday money on a card. And I know this because my dad, we went shopping at like a collectible shop that was around this area before, and he would never let me spend like a lot of money. Like I wanted to spend like all my money on cards, and he was like, no, you're not spending all your money that I gave you on Pokemon cards. So I know that he would not let me spend $10 on a single card. That's just something he would not do. So I realized, okay, I gotta be discreet. This is where it cycles back. I need to be discreet as fuck if I want to get into this house. I have to sneak into my house. I have to get up to my room. I have to go into like my little lockbox, get my $10 for my birthday, and I have to come downstairs and I have to pay for this card. Now, I was not good at lying when I was a kid. I was not. I was horrible at lying. If my parents caught me doing something, I immediately told them what I was doing. I was a very honest little kid, and I really paid the price for it a lot of times in my childhood. I just could not lie to my parents. I would break out giggling and laughing. I could not do it. It takes a long time to build a good repertoire of lying. Anyway, so I get to the house, right? And I remember I open the door very carefully. I open the back door. I sneak in. I see my dad. He's on the couch. He's facing away from the kitchen. I have to go through the kitchen and up the stairs and then in my room and then get it back downstairs. So I remember I'm sneaking. I'm like fucking Solid Snake. I'm creeping in. I'm like low to the ground. I'm crawling on the fucking ground. And I crawl up the steps. And my steps over here, the 4th step from the top, creaks like a motherfucker. So I like vaulted over that. I had to like do this weird squirmy like thing while I'm crawling on all fours to avoid that creaky step. And then I made it up to my room, and I got the $10 out of my lockbox, and I started down the stairs as well. And I got into the kitchen, and I'm creeping, and I'm not crawling on all fours anymore. Now I'm on my tiptoes because I'm like I have to be discreet, but I also have to hurry up because Phil is going to be a dick, and Phil is going to get that card before me. So I'm walking on all fours, and I'm halfway through the kitchen. I'm almost to the back door, and I hear my dad from behind being like, "Hey!" And I'm like, "Shit!" And I threw the $10 up in the air, and I thought, "Oh, if I throw the money, maybe he won't see me throw it." He saw me throw it. I'm just like, he's like, "I thought I heard something over there. What are you doing?" And I'm like, I had to go get $10. And my dad is like, why? Why did you have to have $10? I want to buy something at a yard sale. And my dad's like, all right, what do you want to buy? And I'm like, Pokemon cards? That's the best lie I could come up with. Instead of saying Pokemon card, singular, I said Pokemon cards, plural. as if that made it any better. Like, I'm not just buying one card, I'm buying like 15. As if that's gonna make it any better. I'm a horrible liar. I'm looking back on it now and I'm like, Matt, you're a fucking idiot. Looking back on it now, I could have just walked into the fucking house and my dad would have been like, what are you doing? I'd be like, oh, I have to use the bathroom. And I go upstairs, get my money, flush the toilet, walk downstairs, put the money in my fucking sock or pocket or whatever, and then walk out the door. Come on, fucking 7-year-old Matt. You couldn't think of that shit? Like, that seems like simple. But my dad busted me, and he saw me throw the money up in the air, and he, like, picked it up, and he's like, what did I tell you about spending all your money on Pokemon cards? And I'm like, yeah, but Dad, it's a Blastoise card. It's a Blastoise. It's holographic. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm not going to have you, like, this is all the money you have left, and I'm not going to have you spend it on, a piece of paper. And I'm like, and I was super bummed out. I didn't even go back. I didn't even want to go back there and see the cards again. I didn't want to see Phil. I don't even know if Phil ever bought them, actually. He never showed them off or anything. He never, like, flaunted it in front of my face, which is something Phil would probably do. But that's a discreet story. I got a story out of that. And I guess I appreciate my dad for doing that because, yeah, spending all the money I had at one point on a piece of paper, on a card that I didn't... It would be one thing if I actually knew how to play the game, but I didn't. Like, is Blastoise even a good card? Like, the original Blastoise, like, is that a good card? I don't even know to this day. I don't even know. Someone please tell me. Someone tell me what I missed out on. Yeah. So if somebody knows about the Pokemon trading card game and wants to tell me about that card, be like, oh man, Blastoise is shit. Its like stats are horrible. Oh, like, no, that Blastoise is amazing. All the other Blastoise after it sucked, but this original Blastoise, that was fucking kick ass, dude. So yeah, there's that. I can tell you the story really quick about how I punched Phil. Now Phil and Ian were both a year older than I was, so I was kind of the runt of the litter, and they were both tall. They were both tall kids, and I was really short. And I was hanging out. Phil had like this patio behind his garage that we would always play in. He had like a patio. He had a pool. It was awesome. And we were always fans of like Dragon Ball Z and Yu Yu Hakusho and shit. We would always watch those shows. So we would always like pretend to fight, and we would leave boom, boom, Kamehameha, shit like that. Masenko! We would always do that kind of shit. And one day I was fighting Phil, and he hits me for real, just to be a dick. He hits me for real. And, like, it's, like, in the chest area, and it hurt like a bitch. And I remember I was, like, kneeling over, clutching my chest, and he's standing there laughing his ass off. He's like, ha ha. And this was right after I saw the episode of Digimon where Patamon evolves into Angemon for the first time. Do you remember that? Remember that shit? Remember Patamon, TK's little angel dog thing evolve into a fucking angel? And he defeats Devimon. Do you remember how he defeats Devimon? He defeats him by using a technique called Fist of Fate. I don't know if it was called that in the original Japanese, but that's what it was called in the English dub. And it's, Fist of Fate. Like, Angemon charges up the light in his hand, and he just punches out fucking Devimon. And I just saw that episode, so Phil is laughing at me. And he's distracted, and I'm cowering below him. So I channel every fucking ounce of energy into my fucking hand, and I'm just, like, I don't say Fist of Fate, but I'm thinking it. I'm thinking, like, that exact same, I'm making the exact same hand movements, and I punch Phil square in his fucking lower stomach. I didn't punch him in the balls. I want to make that thing perfectly clear. I did not punch Phil in the balls, but I punched him, like, in this area. More digestive system than stomach, I guess. More like small intestine. And Phil went down. He went from, he started crying like a bitch. And he ran back in the house. And me and Ian bolted. We left. And, I did not see Phil for about a month after that. I remember I did not see him for like a month. And finally, he showed up. And he said, Matt, if you touch me again, like, my mom's gonna, like, sue you, some bullshit, whatever, and some kid bullshit. And you know what makes me feel really happy about that is, eventually I just stopped talking to Phil. Like I said, he was kind of a dick, so eventually I just stopped talking to him. He was like, I was friends with him in elementary school, and it was after like third grade I stopped talking to him. Phil eventually went on to become like a wrestler in high school, so he got really buff guy. I haven't seen him in years. The last time I saw him was about 3 years ago. He was working at a local pizza place, so he made me a pizza. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, did you spit in this pizza? But the funny thing is now, as I saw him at the pizza place, he's a really buff guy now. And I look at him and I'm like, oh man, he could deck me with like just a single punch. He could like knock me out. And even though he's this big, like 6'3" buff wrestling dude, I'll always remember the time that I dropped him on his ass and he cried like a little bitch. And I was like 7 years old at the time. So I always have that moment. I always have that. Okay, well, hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it was something enjoyable. Let me know on that Blastoise card, by the way. Techie101, signing out.